Hello everyone, and welcome to a meta recap, I guess is sort of what we're going to do here. We are on the December the 15th, and we just got a hotfix of patch notes for ranked in Season 2. So we're about 1.5 weeks into the patch so far, and I think we can all agree it hasn't been great. We had a couple of major changes to characters like Doomfist, we had some nerfs to Sojourn, but Roadhog is continuing to live in our dreams / nightmares and hooking us into non-existence, especially as support players. So Aaron came out and he said that they are going to release hotfixes, and they are here as of today. So we're going to go over these hotfixes, talk about the important things that have changed, and just sort of get a basic idea of where I think the meta is right now, because we're in the off season and everyone's just playing ranked. We have no Overwatch League stuff to talk about, so we may as well talk about what we've been doing. So first off, the most important thing that we should talk about in these patch notes is that there was no Hog nerfs. There was nothing changed to Hog. Personally, I've been a big advocate for #delete Roadhog, but they're not going to do that. But they have said that they are going to change Roadhog. Importantly, in these patch notes, nothing changed with him, but they came out on Reddit. Blizzard Craig said, who is a reliable source on the community team of Blizzard, saying, "We could not adjust Roadhog in this patch due to a technical issue with our hotfix to Roadhog. So we have adjusted some other heroes that should give more options to play against him in the short term. Expect more updates in a future patch." So essentially what they're saying is they haven't been able to make the changes that they wanted to Roadhog in just this short hotfix, so they are going to fix him. Hopefully in the mid-season patch in Season 2, which usually comes around week 4, week 5. We don't know. It hasn't really had that much consistency, and it was delayed in the last season. So Roadhog is not going to be changed, but their philosophy, because they can't change Roadhog, is that they're going to buff other things to so hopefully remove the effectiveness of Hog. So let's talk about the patch notes a little bit. I don't really want to talk about the technical limitations. Some people are calling BS on Blizzard not being able to do it. Some people are just, they want to get their pitchforks out and throw them at Blizzard. But I genuinely, it makes sense. It sounds like they want to do bigger changes than what they can in a hotfix right now. So Doomfist, massively buffed going into this patch. He is very strong, very oppressive. But we actually haven't seen that much Doomfist getting played in ranked so far, because Roadhog's just been so good. But when you have played against the good Doomfist, it has been catastrophic. Especially as a support player, where it doesn't feel like you have a lot of counterplay, and the Doomfist just lives forever in your backline, wherever the Doomfist really wants to be. So they did nerf him. His Rocket Punch cooldown got increased from 3 to 4 seconds, which reduces his mobility and his ability to just sort of go in and out as fast. His power block, in the most recent buffs he had, the power block threshold went from 90 damage down to 80 damage, but I think that was too short, and they also agreed, but then they overshot it back to 100 damage for the Doomfist power block, so we'll see how much that affects him, and if he's going to struggle to get his empowered punch up anymore. They also had his temporary health gained per target hit with an ability, so every time he hits someone with an ability or anything like that, he was getting 30 health. They then buffed it to 40, and now they've split the middle into 35 temporary health after hitting someone with an ability. Hopefully that should make him less immortal. Doomfist needed love. Absolutely, going into this season, he was not doing enough damage, not having enough survivability for being a high mobility tank. I think they overdid it, and we'll see if these changes bring him back down to earth. But as I said, I don't think that's really going to matter because of how strong Roadhog is against Doomfist right now. I think you should expect and continue playing Roadhog in your ranked games, because I don't think these other changes are going to drastically affect it. So we'll go through these other changes that have happened so far. Orisa Terror Surge now goes through shields. I think it's the right change. It's just kind of annoying when you have this big ultimate and it gets blocked by one shield. People should have to run away from it. That's the whole point of the ultimate. So that's a good change. And the damage fall off on her primary fire is now 25 meters, was 15. So your effective range is essentially increased by 10 meters, which is an important one for Orisa. She just sort of like was shooting tennis balls out of a cannon, and it wasn't really doing much damage to people from distance. Ramatra, obviously Ramatra is the new hero to the roster. He has been talked about a lot of not being very strong. expected to be this tempo tank, but people don't really understand how that works. The problem that I think Ramatra's having is that his ranged form, Nemesis form, Omnic form, is good, but it doesn't really do things better than a Sigma or, almost an Orisa to that matter. And then in Nemesis form, he just spends his whole time blocking and not really getting in their face. It's very feast or famine. If you get the ultimate off and you're standing in the middle of people, you can do a ton of damage, you can do a ton of work, but it's kind of hard to set that up, especially in Nemesis form. So to combat that, they've increased his movement speed when he's in Nemesis form by 20%. I've been advocating that he needs like a short dash or just like something small kind of gap closer, especially in his ultimate form, because it can be hard to do anything. Like everyone just runs away from you and then you're like, no, come back, and you can't really stop them, and his slow isn't really that slowing, so people are just running away. They also gave him 75 more armor when in Nemesis form, just to make him a bit more tanky, because it felt like, going back to what I said earlier, when you're in Nemesis form, you take so much damage that it just doesn't feel like you can do anything, and you spend the entire time blocking and running away. So we'll see if this helps him a lot and increases his sort of tempo style that he's expected to have. But we can all agree Ramatra needs a little bit of love. But we won't really know until he comes into ranked, which will be next Tuesday. His shield was also reduced in cooldown. I think the shield cooldown was just way too long. I like the idea of it's like a one-time place, high health shield that sort of gives you the ability to block off or shut someone down, but cooldown was just too long. Sojin has come into the game, massively overpowered. They tried to nerf her coming into Season 2. It's worked a little bit, but she is still too strong, I think, especially with Mercy and Blue Beam. That discussion's been happening a lot lately of like how much Mercy is enabling these other hit scan characters. So Sojin, they've been trying to find a way to nerf her. So they've finally gone in a couple of weird directions. First of all, her primary fire, if we have a look here, this is her primary fire. This is her spread now. As you can sort of see, it's like going in a lot more different directions as you get further away. Like you can see it the most against this roof. Like look at how much like it's just sort of jutting out. You're not going to notice it when you're at close range, right? You're still going to hit all headshots. Everything's going to be fine. But as soon as you start getting longer distances, like something like this, where you're just spamming down corridors in people's face, all of a sudden the damage gets a lot less consistent. Just sort of stop the spam down corridors that you're getting from Sojin. So that's to stop that, but it also, the big nerf, especially at lower ranks, because this is the thing people have complained about a lot, the disruptor shot will no longer slow enemy movement, which is the big ball of lightning. Does a lot of damage, and the slow has been obviously very strong in certain situations, so they've taken that away from her. I'm curious to see if that hurts her a lot, because that was a big defensive but also close range tool that made her quite strong, which we'll see how that'll change. And they also increase her slide by 1 second, just reduce the mobility of Sojin a little bit. Tracer's pulse pistols, damage reduced from 6 to 5.5. So it was 5 damage when there was the bug, and they sort of said when they fixed the bug in Season 2, that was increasing Tracer's damage. So when they fixed the bug, they're like, whoa, we need to give Tracer more damage, otherwise she's going to be useless. And Tracer can never be useless in Overwatch. That is a fact throughout the history of time of Overwatch. There is never a situation in which Tracer is allowed to be useless. She must be meta at all times. So they decided to buff her from 5 to 6, but that damage number was just way too high. She's been an absolute menace in ranked. Even with all the one-shots and like her survivability can be a little strange sometimes, she's just doing so much damage, able to one-clip. So they pulled that damage back down to 5.5, which is the right number. I think that's the number we've had in the past. I think it is the sweet spot for Tracer. I think it keeps her damage good. You can one-clip people if you need to. You can do good damage against people, but you're not so oppressive that it feels like you can just like easily 1 to 2 clip anyone you take end up fighting. And here we are at the big change that has every support player who, is an Ana main fist pumping. Ana buffs have come through out of nowhere. The biotic rifle, the damage and healing from your primary fire has been increased from 70 to 75. 5 damage and healing doesn't sound like a big number, but it adds up, and it will be a big change for her. She can now 2-shot tracers. There's a couple of breakpoints that's really going to help out. So Ana's that's a pretty big buff for Ana. And this is probably one of the big ones that Blizzard is alluding to, of we're going to buff other characters to make Hog worse. And Ana is a big counter to Roadhog. As much as the Kiriko Suzu exists to sort of cleanse Roadhog and it becomes an issue, Ana is forcing out that cooldown a lot and can be very viable. And Ana just does good damage, especially after they've buffed it. Big one as well, they increase the biotic grenade, like the anti-heal or the buffing of the heal on the biotic grenade from 3 to 4 seconds. It was 5, they reduced it to 3 this season, and now it's going back up to 4. And I think 4 is around the right number. 3 felt a little short, but we'll see how that plays out. And Kiriko didn't get as much of a change as I was expecting. I was expecting bigger nerfs coming to Kiriko, but maybe in the hotfix they didn't want to mess with her too much. But her invulnerability duration reduced from 1 second to 0.85 seconds, which I don't think you're really even going to notice that much. It might have a little bit of effect, but it's not going to be the big thing that's going to be like, oh my god, Kiriko's no longer playable. For me personally, I think her direct healing needs to get changed, just reduced a tiny bit, like from her Fuda. It just does so much individual healing, especially when you have a meta like Roadhog being incredibly strong. And then, you know, we've talked about it a lot. The Suzu being able to cleanse and provide immortality, I think is just too much value. It either needs to get on a much higher cooldown, or it needs to do one or the other. I think you can't have it only cleanse. I think if you take the invulnerability away, I think the cleanse is only useful against like, what, 8 characters in the game of Overwatch, so it's not really going to be that useful against a lot of characters. And then, so if you're going to do that, you need to make it have a knockback more. I think just removing the cleanse from it and giving invulnerability is probably the best thing. That solves a lot of the issues of like, it's just ridiculously strong against, you know, Earth Shatter or Ana's Kit or Junker Queen, who just gets completely mitigated by one ability from Kiriko. So I think there are still some passes that need to go through Kiriko, but she's a fun character, so I'll let it slide. I love playing fun support characters. But that's where we are at the end of the patch notes. I don't expect this to change the meta drastically from what I've seen. I think you'll still see a lot of what's been happening in Season 2, which is a lot of Roadhog mirrors. I think Kiriko is still going to be played to protect that Roadhog. One of the big changes, I think you'll play a lot of Ana alongside Kiriko. So Ana, Kiriko, Roadhog. Then the DPS is interesting. It's gone a lot of different directions. This might be enough to make Sojourn not very strong with these changes that have come into Sojourn. Maybe you'll start to see more Ashe, more Soldier, because I think there will be a lot of people still playing long range against a Roadhog. Tracer is still going to be pretty strong, but she's been struggling with all the one-shots that's been coming into the game. So I think DPS is going to be the place you find the most flexibility, while I think the support and tank lineup is going to stay pretty much the same. That's my first looks at these meta. I haven't played it. I'm about to jump in on my Twitch channel. If you guys want to come check out me playing ranked, come to my Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Custa. I know I haven't been making a lot of content in this off-season, but hey, that's what happens when we're in the Overwatch League off-season and free agency has been delayed forever. Free agency will start in the December 23rd, which is 8 days from now. So keep staying excited for that. We will have some Christmas miracles coming through. Hopefully we'll have more information with what's going on at APAC. Hope you guys are enjoying Overwatch 2. Love you all. Leave all your rage and hatred to Roadhog with #DeleteRoadhog in the comments below. Much love. Thank you very much. And I'll see you guys next time.